Hi everyone, welcome to Tuesday, and like normal we always take a look at the performance of the main board for the New Zealand Stock Exchange just to see how it's gone for the last week. Before I do jump across and share my screen, just remember that this is for educational purposes only, definitely not intended to be personalised financial advice. If you're looking for that, then you do need to go and have a chat to your own financial advisor. Also, I just want to let you know, if you're keen to get started in investing, then at the moment for the month of February, the link is below. I'm giving you my monthly money map, and that's a simple spreadsheet that you can fill out. It's interactive. It will show you exactly where your money's going. And then that way you don't need to come up with anything additional to be able to perhaps put money into some sort of investing vehicle to get you started, because hopefully this will highlight where you might have a few sort of spending leaks that you're able to tweak. So the link for that's below. I'd love for you to come and download it and see what you think. Hopefully it'll be a good place to get you started. Anyway, let's take a look. Okay, as you can see here, I have got the NZX50 up on the screen, being the main board for the New Zealand Stock Exchange. I've got this on the weekly candles, and you can look at this. This was quite a big down week last week. In fact, the volume was 27.7 million, and you can see there that is quite a big close. The market opened for the week at 13,446, and it reached a high of 13,538. However, it closed 13,198. So quite a big drop. So that's something we are going to have to watch. Even when I look at that candle, if I zoom in, you can see we've only got a wick at the top. So that means the sellers were actually in control last week. They were the ones driving this market down more so than the buyers. The positive thing, if you like, when I look down the bottom, is there wasn't heaps of volume on this big sell-off. So that can mean perhaps people are getting a little bit nervous. They might just be wanting to perhaps cash out because they do have some shares that are in profit, that sort of thing. So we just do need to take a look and see where that takes us. Let's jump across to the 1 year chart, simply because it brings up these candles as daily ones, and look at that. On Friday, that was actually quite huge. A lot of volume on Friday, not too much for the rest of the week. And you can see here that Wednesday was in fact the only positive day last week. So yeah, definitely something to watch. I personally am definitely not buying into any new shares at the moment. Let's put our moving averages on and just see what they're telling us. So like normal, I use the 30 exponential. And you can see here on the weekly basis that the market is trading well below that 30-day moving average. Let's also put on the 15. I like to use a fast and slower moving average, because then it can just give me a little bit more idea as to potentially what is happening with the market. So you can see here that the moving averages on the weekly basis crossed at, looks like it was towards the end of January. If I zoom in, you can see that it looked like they were potentially going to swing back up, but after Friday, look at that big drop. So that's definitely a negative sign on the weekly basis. Definitely meaning like I just said, I'm not buying any more shares at this stage. Comfortable to hold what I've already got. I will use my stop losses, so they will take me out of the market if something more sinister happens. Let's go to the 5 year chart and just take a look at that, simply because it brings these candles up to weekly candles. And you can see here that the market has definitely started to turn. After last week, the market has actually, now you can see where it is. It's that dashed line. It's now below both of those moving averages. And if I zoom in even more, you can see that that 15-week moving average has now started to turn down as well. Definitely both negative symbols. That's why I'm staying out of the market. Let's take these moving averages off. And one thing I want to pop on is let's just make a comparison to the equal weighted index if you're investing into the NZX50, and that is FNZ. Here we go, Smartshares NZ Top 50. you can see that the shares that are driving the main board for the market are a small handful of shares. They're the big movers and shakers. So under the equal weight chart that I've got up here, it puts a maximum of 5% exposure to any of the companies. And you can see here that that too has taken a huge drop last week as well. So I've just gone to interest.co.nz, and if I scroll down, you can see here, these are the companies that make up the performance of the main board, or heavily weighted to the main board. So Fisher & Paykel Healthcare is our number one stock. You can see there it has a market capitalisation of about 23 million, and the main board for the New Zealand Stock Exchange is 13.8%. Then it drops down to Meridian, that has about 9%. Auckland Airport has 8%, and you can see it dropping down. So what the equal weight does is it evens out the likes of the Fisher & Paykel Healthcare, Meridian, those sorts of companies that have over 5% exposure, and it limits them to 5%. It won't have 5% to absolutely every share. And if I scroll down, you can see that those percentages are getting less. So Kathmandu, they are the smallest share on the NZX50, and they've only got 0.113% exposure. You can also see that it's only trading at 27 cents. So because our market's not a super strong market, it's quite interesting that a company like Kathmandu is actually still on our main board, but it's because we don't have too many shares. So going back to that FNZ, which is the equal weight, it will make it a lot more balanced, if you like, between all of these shares. So if I flick back, you can see that the performance of that, it's very low. And that was because a lot of our shares sold off last week, including a lot of the top performers as well. I'll just take that one off. Now, I hope you're getting some value from this. I really love it when I get feedback and hear what it is that you want to learn, and also want me to do reviews on. So if you do have something that's curious, email me, message me, whatever, reply to the comments, and I'm happy to do a video on it. Now, speaking of which, this week, I'll just stop sharing. This week, I have been asked to take a look at ticker code EDD, and that one is Morgan Stanley Emerging Market Domestic Debt Fund. And also, I hope I've got this right, because I couldn't find it. They initially said EDM, and I'm just wondering if they transpose potentially the letters. So I'm going to take a look at EMD, which is Western Asset Emerging Markets Debt Fund. So there are a couple of debt markets that we are going to have a look at. So that's Thursday. But hey, come back to me with any questions you've got, anything you'd like to learn, or any stocks you'd like me to review. And also remember to go and download my monthly money map, where you will be able to put your input in as to where you're spending money. And like I said earlier, hopefully it will come up with some little hidden gems where suddenly you might be giving yourself a little bit of extra cash in your pocket. So until Thursday, take care.